Tonight, 2 dead, a man and woman drown as flash flooding hits a Gippsland campsite. First on 9, a passing driver becomes a fire hero, pulling a Wantirna resident from his burning home. The culinary world hosts Melbourne-born chef Bill Granger following his death in London, aged 54. Fears skyscrapers will tower over suburbs in the southeast, with the government taking planning control. A dog owner and her pup plucked to safety from the raging Werribee River. And our skipper fires up the MCG on day 2 of the Boxing Day test.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Dougal Beatty.
Good evening. The bodies of a man and woman have been recovered after flash flooding swept through a Gippsland camping ground. Buchan residents and campers were taken by surprise as the floodwaters rose quicker than ever before. Reid Butler has the latest.
A deadly downpour. Took just minutes for flash flooding to swallow the popular Buchan camping reserve.
It came up quicker than what it ever has done before.
And when the water receded, police discovered the body of a woman in debris on the banks of the river. And late today, confirmation from Victoria Police that a man's body has also been found. Around 100 other campers were able to escape.
One person did lose their footing and was forced by the floodwater down towards the bridge that accesses that site, and they were stranded there for a period and had to be recovered back to the camp kitchen from there.
Some took shelter in a nearby motel.
They've literally turned up with no clothes, nothing, just the clothes on their back, and needed somewhere to stay for the night.
Sally Campbell runs the Buchan General Store and lives in the home next door. A double whammy of damage taking its toll.
The water came down that quick and fast that we just had no hope.
There's a lot of property damage. It's going to cost millions of dollars to repair the damage to the Parks Reserve. And we just need to be patient now, make sure it's safe before visitors go back there.
Damage has also been reported in the vicinity of the popular Buchan Caves, now closed to the public for the foreseeable future. As these visitors found out the hard way this afternoon after making a 4-hour trip from Dandenong.
They were very eager to go inside, but couldn't able to go. Just disappointed.
Police are making the most of the favourable conditions today. The job now, flying up and down the river, getting a bird's eye view as they search for any vehicles that may have been swept away. Locals have described the flooding as a once-in-a-lifetime event, 70 millimetres of rain falling in just half an hour.
At the gauge at the Buchan River, it rose a bit over 2 metres in a matter of about 30 minutes.
But this is a town all too familiar with nature's fury.
Buchan will bounce back. We did after the fires, and we will again.
Let's go live now to Reid Butler near Bairnsdale, where campsite evacuees from Buchan were taken. Reid, the death of a second person makes this an even bigger tragedy.
Yes, Dougal, we understand they were camping together. This man and woman, no doubt, just hoping to get away over the Christmas break, and instead this. And our hearts go out to their families tonight. I'm at the Lucknow Footy Club right now, just outside of Bairnsdale, about an hour southwest of Buchan, and this is where many of the evacuated campers spent the night, overnight at the footy club. They've been able to find alternative accommodation now, but they're all just waiting on that phone call to get the all clear to return to the campsite in Buchan and see what's left of their belongings, including cars and camper vans, many of which would have likely been damaged, destroyed or swept away altogether. But of course, Dougal, they're just material items.
It's a very sad day. Reid Butler, thank you. Well, 7 people, including a 9-year-old girl, have now died after a severe storm ravaged southeast Queensland. The search was launched after a boat with 11 men capsized in Moreton Bay, killing 3. The ferocious weather destroyed homes, uprooted trees and brought down power lines, leaving tens of thousands without electricity. A Good Samaritan has saved a man from his burning home in Wantirna this afternoon. Stephanie Anderson is following the story for us. Steph, the roof of the property was on fire.
It was, Dougal, but the resident inside had no idea. It was just before 3 this afternoon that calls started coming into emergency services after locals noticed smoke billowing from the roof of the Bellbird Drive home. Now, James Randall lives a couple of streets away. He was driving home from work. He pulled over and he actually ran inside the property, finding the resident there who, as we say, had no idea of what was going on outside. Let's hear from what happened next from both James and then that homeowner.
I found a man who was screaming And he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Your house is on fire and I have to get you out."
James helped me out, he put me out and he called the ambulance and he just calmed me down.
Now, that man has issued a very big thank you both to James and also his neighbours who came out to help and the fire services who actually responded to the incident. As you saw in those pictures, his kitchen is significantly damaged. But Dougal, the really important thing tonight is that he, and we're told his dog, are safe and well.
Yes, a fantastic effort. Stephanie Anderson, thank you. Well, headaches for commuters in Melbourne's northwest today after this truck brought down tram wires in Essendon. The vehicle misjudged the height of the rail bridge on Mount Alexander Road around lunchtime, sending sparks flying. Tram services on Route 59 were disrupted for most of the afternoon while workers made urgent repairs. The Allen government will grab planning controls over significant areas around the suburban rail loop. It sparked fears suburban centres will be transformed into high-rise hubs. But as Adam Hegarty reports, planners insist the community will get its say.
Melbourne is heading upwards from the flats of Clayton to the towers of Box Hill. But tonight, concerns are just how far it will go. The suburban rail loop has some in a spin.
This is massive rebuilding of a city on a grand scale, on an international level.
To build housing precincts along the Eastern Line, the state government has seized swathes of planning control around Cheltenham, Clayton, Monash, Glen Waverley, Burwood and Box Hill stations, a combined 45 square kilometres zoned for urban renewal. At Monash and Clayton, it overlaps to an area 9 times the size of Docklands. The state government, adamant, only a fraction will convert to high-rise, the rest, community amenities. The opposition, though, with its own line.
150,000 people are about to have their planning rights taken away.
The Suburban Rail Loop Authority says residents will be consulted to make sure these communities maintain their existing neighbourhood character while increasing housing choices to meet demand. In other words, it's the changing face of Melbourne, a transformation from the suburban charm we've known for decades to high-rise living mimicking major European cities. Critics insist there's got to be a better way.
In high-quality environments, not just be placed in rows of high-rise. That's the worst option.
Adam Hegarty, 9 News.
The Department of Foreign Affairs is urgently working to confirm reports of the first known Australian to be killed in the Israel-Gaza war. Family members of Ibrahim Bezai say he travelled from Sydney to Lebanon to meet his wife, and both were killed in what local media claims is an Israeli airstrike. Bill Granger, the celebrity chef who took Australia's cafe culture around the world, has died after a private battle with cancer. Born in Melbourne but celebrated in Sydney and London, the 54-year-old became known as the Breakfast King. Liz Daniels compiled this tribute.
It's a dish so simple it barely requires a recipe.
And that's me on a plate.
But that humble plate of avocado on toast became the dish of a generation and made Bill Granger world-renowned.
It seems a strange claim to fame, but I'm willing to take it.
And today, as news broke of his passing, Sydney turned out for breakfast at Bill's.
We thought, oh, it was sort of a nice touch of respect. Yeah, very sad, very young.
We are happy to be here to celebrate his life.
We normally get avocado on toast, to be honest, so we remember him particularly for that great tradition.
The Granger family shared a statement this morning. Bill died peacefully in hospital with his wife Natalie Elliott and their 3 daughters Edie, Inez and Bunny at his bedside in their adopted home of London. He will be remembered as the king of breakfast for making unpretentious food into something special filled with sunshine. He will be deeply missed by all.
Bill was like just a really sunshine kind of person, high energy, really happy, kind of vivacious kind of guy.
It was October 1993 when a young Bill Granger opened his first cafe at Darlinghurst, an art student from Melbourne who'd taught himself to cook.
Because I was born in the back of a butcher shop, shopkeeping was in my blood. My grandfather had butcher shops, my father had butcher shops, and the idea of having a restaurant was just my idea or my way of having a shop.
And it became an empire, the franchise expanding in the eastern suburbs of Sydney before he and wife Natalie took their breakfast business global. 19 restaurants in Japan, Korea and the UK.
Bill's like an Australian restaurant legend.
He used to rent our house in Notting Hill.
The father of three had been privately battling cancer, and his passing shocked not only his customers but his culinary peers. From Nigella Lawson, heartbroken, she remembered the joy he gave us, whether through his food, his books, the spaces he made for us, or in person. Fellow Melbourne boy Luke Mangan, Bill was one of the nicest, most gentle and humble cooks I've ever met. And Jamie Oliver said Bill had an extraordinary ease and style in cooking that could only come from Australia.
I kind of think of Bill as kind of the accidental restaurateur. He kind of opened the little Darlinghurst cafe, which was tiny with a little kitchen. And he would have had no idea that what it was going to become over the next 30 years.
Neil Perry has known Bill Granger his whole career and credits him with transforming Sydney's cafe culture and then taking it global.
He kind of reinvented it to kind of make it simple and approachable and delicious. A lot of the guys who do good breakfasts now would have always been inspired by what Bill was doing at Bill's back in Darlinghurst back in the early days.
14 cookbooks, 5 TV series and a Medal of the Order of Australia just this year. Now there's barely a breakfast menu in the world that doesn't carry the Bill Granger classic. So, what's the secret?
I like to crush it on the toast. I'm going to put some coriander on there, squeeze of lime juice, a little bit of salt. I like a little bit of chilli. And this is a time to break out your decent olive oil. And they're so simple, but absolutely perfect. And that's why it's one of my great dishes.
Bill Granger was 54. Liz Daniels, 9 News.
Upgrades to the Westgate Bridge have brought traffic to a crawl for much of the day. Only 2 of the 5 city-bound lanes are open as crews conduct annual maintenance works. Motorists are being warned to expect delays of up to half an hour until it's completed next Thursday. There are warnings tonight about fresh hip pocket pain for Australians from a conflict half a world away. Attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea are wreaking havoc on global trade, and consumers here won't be spared. More from Eliza Edwards.
For a second day, bumper sales sent shoppers into a frenzy.
They're all good prices, just deciding which one.
I bought a big bag and I'm filling it up.
Snapping up cheap goods while the price is right. But there are warnings tonight the cost of some products could be about to rise.
There will be many supply chain knock-on effects.
Attacks on cargo ships in the Red Sea are escalating. The US military says it shot down 12 drones and multiple missiles fired by Houthi rebels in a 10-hour period yesterday. It's forcing major shipping companies to change course. Rather than steering through the Suez Canal, they're favouring a safer route around southern Africa, a journey taking 10 days longer and adding up to 15% to shipping costs.
That's basically the Europe-Asia trade with some trailing effects into Australia.
Australia's main exports to Europe are coal and gold, while we import cars, pharmaceuticals and some foods.
Overall, there are going to be some price increases. I expect them to be relatively marginal.
The bulk of our imports come from Asia, so they don't travel through the impacted region. But economists caution the ripple effects of the conflict are difficult to predict and could eventually drive up inflation at home.
If global supply chains are disrupted by developments in the Middle East and/or we get a big increase in the price of oil, that would certainly be something that the Reserve Bank would focus on.
So far, volatility in global oil prices isn't being felt here at the petrol pump, but that could change.
The reality is, if the Middle East sneezes, the rest of us catches a cold. Having said that, as we speak today, we do not foresee prices going up based on what has happened overseas.
Eliza Edwards, 9 News.
Supermaxi's Law Connect and Andu Comanche are going toe-to-toe as they battle for line honours in the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. Penelope Lish is at Hobart's Constitution Dock. Penny, it's been a rough ride for some of the other boats.
It certainly has, Dougal. We're expecting that we will see some of the boats start to arrive here across that finish line from tomorrow morning. But we've seen a number of retirements, 11 so far throughout this first day of racing. It is Andu Comanche in front at the minute by about 8 nautical miles ahead of Law Connects. But at time there has been less than 1 nautical mile in it. So it's still anyone's race as they head towards the Derwent. They will be racing up here to Constitution Dock to try and claim those line honours. But if you have a look at this is how this first day of racing has played out on the high seas. Straight into the wind, pelted by rain and spray. Law Connects crew drenched, battling this night and day. Mid this morning, hot favourite Andu Comanche was on the horizon.
That little, we're down in front of them and straight lighting.
But Law Connects' lead didn't last.
And we're able to get ahead of them this morning. And but now the breeze is back into the east, the smoke away. We've been missing our sail that we blew up last night.
Comanche, the biggest, fastest boat in the fleet, looking to defend last year's line honours.
We just need some opportunity.
Wild conditions forced nearly a dozen boats back to Sydney.
The whole rig has come a bit loose tonight.
Scallywag docked after breaking its bowsprit. The two-man crew from Rum Rebellion also home early after skipper Shane Connolly went overboard, luckily with a tether attached, and now a beer in hand. Arcadia was caught in the same squall, its mainsail destroyed.
They went from 6 knots to 32 knots.
Wild Thing 100 regained ground and great heights. It looks like a 2-horse race to the finish, but it's still anyone's. While the sun is out here in Hobart, celebrations are on ice at the Customs House Hotel. There are 70 kegs waiting for crews to cross the line, and there'll be a few rums for the sailors too.
I'll be setting an alarm and watching the radar and watching them come in, congratulate them all.
In Hobart, Penelope Leash, 9 News.
And the start of the annual Melbourne to Hobart yacht race was a virtual no-show today. A thick sea fog rolled in, blanketing the heads. Onlookers gathered at Queenscliff but were unable to see any of the yachts as they made the 1 p.m. dash from the start line at Portsea. Even the Spirit of Tasmania could only just be seen before it too was enveloped by the fog. And now with a look ahead to more sport, here's Clint Stanaway.
Thank you, Dougal. Coming up tonight, Australia on the attack at the MCG. And it's our quick-thinking skipper causing Pakistan all kinds of problems.
Got him! And it's an absolute beauty to remove Baba Azam, one of the best batters in the world.
Also tonight, seeing stars, a brilliant catch divides Big Bash fans. The big money signing who found the best possible time to break his United duck. And for real, a very different meet and greet for Australia's biggest tennis stars. That's all coming up shortly in sport for you, Dougal.
Looking forward to that one, Clint. Thank you. When 9 News returns, deep trouble. A dog mum speaks after they were rescued from the Werribee River. That story next. Plus, cheaper overseas holidays on the horizon and the risky rescue to save a truck driver dangling off a bridge.
Streets and homes in Melbourne southeast have flooded after heavy rain. The outlook now is very bright.
9 News, it's trustworthy, it's genuine and it's reliable.
Rebuilding is an important step.
Having been all over the world, how lucky we are to live in a city like Melbourne.
On January 14, Alicia and Tom begin a new era.
The stories that come out of our city are really important.
Making the important issue.
These are stories about my city, about my suburb.
On the front line.
For rescuers this morning.
That is your news.
The news that matters to you.
Melbourne is your city. 9 is your news.
A woman says she kicked into dog mum mode when her pooch was swept away in raging rapids at Werribee. As Amber Johnston explains, the 29-year-old dived in after her staffy cross before she needed rescuing herself.
They say you should never meet your heroes, but 2-year-old Minka is pretty happy with her new friends and found fame.
totally fine. She's totally fine. Yeah, she's happy. And to be honest, she just probably wants to go for a big walk.
As if this wasn't enough of an adventure for the rescue pooch, rescued for a second time from raging rapids at Werribee River after she was swept 20 metres downstream.
She's never gone in the river before, and she chose yesterday when it was really full.
29-year-old Maddie diving in without hesitation.
And I just literally saw her head just kind of go past. I just kind of lost my mind and made the decision to go in the water.
This gives you an idea of what they were up against, the rapids looking as dangerous as they sound. Maddie grabbing Minka and finding refuge on a fallen tree, clinging for 15 minutes until a passerby spotted them.
They were shocked, and I think they thought I was saying hello. And I was like, no, I need help, please.
Acting Sergeant Nicole Batt coordinating the difficult rescue mission.
The dog is an extra element of problem solving to the equation.
Maddie doesn't regret jumping in to save Minka and believes many other dog owners would do the same. But emergency crews say it comes as a timely reminder to stay safe around our waterways.
You can usually step across and walk over it. It's going really fast today.
As for Minka, maybe some swimming lessons.
She's probably not going to be the ocean dog that I had maybe hoped.
Amber Johnston, 9 News.
Russia's suffered a major setback in its war with Ukraine. One of its warships has been damaged in an attack at a Black Sea port. One person was killed in the strike, which has thrown into question Vladimir Putin's future plans in the Crimean region. Firefighters in Florida have pulled off a daring rescue after a truck was left dangling from an overpass on a busy highway. The 18-wheeler nearly went crashing over the side after crashing with crews who used a ladder to retrieve that trapped driver. Well, flying overseas has been an expensive business for Australians in recent times, but that might be about to change. Eddie Meyer has details on how much cheaper airfares could become.
The COVID-19 pandemic might be officially over, but its effects on the airline industry aren't. Capacity into and out of the country is still down by 500,000 seats a month, and that could only mean higher airfares, 40% higher between Sydney and London than pre-COVID, while travellers from Melbourne to Los Angeles are paying 65% more. That's expected to change this year, with Qantas, Singapore Airlines and Thai Airways all adding more flights in coming months, while Turkish Airlines has just been given the green light to add up to 35 flights a week between Istanbul and Australia. That could slash fares to Europe by 10% alone.
Each of these new airlines unlocks competition. You can be sure that they will come on with new fares and discounts, and you can be sure that existing airlines are going to try and match those with deep discounts of their own.
As an example, in mid-January, flying Qantas from Sydney to New York costs $2,000 one way in economy. Mid-November, that drops to $1,700. Same flight with Singapore Airlines in February, $1,700 one way. By mid-November, that should be $1,200. So, no matter where you are, watch out for the sales.
Time now for a check on the weather with Madeline Spark, and there was quite an improvement today, Maddie.
That's right, there certainly has been, Dougal. Melbourne enjoyed a lot more sunshine and a lot less rain, and that helped the city to warm up to 24 degrees. There have been a few showers about today, but they've generally kept to the east of the Melbourne metro area, with only the Dandenong Ranges recording a few millimetres. But most of the state has had more than enough rain this month. This map here shows the percentages of average December rainfall. The green areas indicate more than 100%, the blue 200% and the purple 400%. But there's nothing more than a sprinkle expected for the remainder of the year, and I'll have those details and a look at the first few days of 2024 after the break. Oh, a bit later on.
OK, thanks, Maddie. We'll see you soon. Well, coming up after the break, financial distress, cancer patients putting off treatment as cost of living pressures hit. Rapper Kanye West's Hebrew apology to the Jewish community, and Melbourne Stars tune up to ring in the new year at Hamer Hall. Cancer patients and their families are struggling financially with a record number of calls made to the Cancer Council for assistance. The mum of a young boy with leukaemia has put her successful business in hiatus to help him through treatment. Medical reporter Emily Rice.
When Bentley photographer Penny McCready's 16-year-old son Lachlan was diagnosed with cancer a year ago, she had to put her business and income on hold.
It's quite scary. We got the phone call to say, take your child to hospital, he has leukaemia. And effectively from that moment, I haven't been able to work. Very minimal.
Relying on just her husband's income, the family is facing a rent increase and ongoing medical expenses.
The financial impact has been massive.
The Cancer Council helpline has been inundated with a 50% surge in calls this year. Most were for psychological support, followed by a 48% jump in calls about coping financially with cancer.
We put more financial counsellors on to meet that demand.
Many patients and family members are forced to quit work to cope with prolonged treatment.
But the cost of living doesn't stop, and all of the things that people need to manage, all of the bills, the mortgage, they keep coming.
The Cancer Council does have a free financial counselling program available to those who meet certain criteria. Call the helpline or go online for more information.
We've spent more nights in hospital than at home over the past 12 months. It's endless. It's endless. It's a 24/7 job.
Emily Rice, 9 News.
Rapper Kanye West has apologised to the Jewish community for his past anti-Semitic comments. In an Instagram post written in Hebrew, he says he regrets the pain he may have caused and is committed to making amends. The 46-year-old has previously voiced his admiration for Adolf Hitler. Well, some of Australia's brightest musical talents will join forces for a special concert at Hamer Hall to ring in the new year. It is the first time Marina Pryor, John Foreman, Michael Cormick and Gemma Ricks have shared the stage. Stephanie Anderson with the story.
This is an apartment piano party you definitely want to be invited to.
The world's gone mad today, good's bad today. And
4 of the biggest stars of the stage preparing for one final performance of 2023.
We have the dream team of the musical theatre world together on the one stage with a 60-piece orchestra behind them. This is a really, really special once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Their faces we're so used to seeing as characters, but on the 30th and 31st, Marina, Michael and Gemma will just be themselves, delivering a set list inspired by their incredible careers put together by their maestro.
There's a little bit of Phantom, there's a little bit of Wicked, there's a little bit of Frozen.
I'm sort of pinching myself because I look up to these amazing people.
I love that symbolism of a new year coming, and for me personally this is about doing what I get to love to do, you know, and with the best people in the world.
And for one of these friends it'll also be a full circle celebration.
I made my debut 40 years ago in The Pirates of Penzance on Hamer Hall stage on New Year's Eve at that very hour. Like, it's kind of spooky that worked out. I'm way back where it all started.
There's still tickets available to those 3 Hamer Hall shows starting from $99, and the final performance on New Year's Eve will wrap up before midnight. So there's the option to stick around and take in the fireworks that'll light up the city. These performers are already popping the champagne in anticipation because to 2023 it's nearly time to say goodbye. Stephanie Anderson, 9 News.
Still to come tonight, political storm from Daniel Andrews' shock resignation to the Voice verdict. We look at the political twists and turns of 2023. Another international airline touches down at Melbourne Airport, and 3 lucky winners share last night's $90 million Oz Lotto jackpot. In the midst of a cost of living crisis and unrelenting interest rate rises, Australia said no to The Voice and goodbye to its class of COVID premiers. Daniel Andrews called time on a dominant decade and paved the way for a woman to lead Victoria for just the second time in our history. Mark Santomartino takes a look back at 2023's biggest moments in politics.
He won election after election after election.
Yes.
And after notching up 3,219 days in the top job, enough to one day be immortalised in bronze, Daniel Andrews called it quits.
When it's time, it's time.
Wife Kath and two of his three children were in the crowd as Mr Andrews faced cameras for a final time as Premier, catching much of Victoria by surprise, including his daughter Grace, who was overseas at the time.
It's not an easy decision because as much as we've achieved together, there's so much more to do.
Adding the construction of 800,000 new homes to that to-do list was Andrews' final act in a controversial final year. That included a secret trip to China.
It's a fantastic trip, and I'll tell you all about it tomorrow.
And the cancellation of the Commonwealth Games.
$6 to $7 billion is well and truly too much for a 12-day sporting event.
Victoria ended up spending $500 million for nothing. Tim Pallas hiked business and property taxes to cope with climbing debt, but his plan was battered by a blowout on the North East link worth a staggering $10 billion.
I don't think anyone's particularly happy.
This government is taking Victoria in the wrong direction.
But others could say the same about John Pesutto. When neo-Nazis gate-crashed a Let Women Speak rally in March, Mr Pesutto fought to expel Moira Deeming from his Liberal Party room.
I would consider it a great failure of leadership if I didn't take this action.
People are saying, why didn't you tell the Nazis to leave? Well, there was no Nazi symbols on them.
Mrs Deeming later made good on a threat to sue John Pesutto for defamation, and Victoria made it illegal to perform the Nazi salute in public.
Hail Hitler. Oh, nearly did it. It's illegal now, isn't it?
New laws immediately tested in a shocking wave of anti-Semitism. Angst fuelled by a war half a world away.
Hamas is an enemy, but not just of Israel. Hamas is an enemy of all peace-loving Palestinian people.
Anthony Albanese backed Israel's right to defend itself, but has since called for a ceasefire, championing calm and unity at home after an all-too-divisive referendum.
What would be racist is segmenting our nation into us and them.
Jacinta Price rallied the no camp and Australia responded. In October, 60% of the country voted no.
I absolutely respect the decision of the Australian people.
The majority of Victorians also said no, but the state government continued its march toward treaty and made being drunk in public legal following the death of Auntie Tanya Day.
Alcoholism is a health issue. We want to beef it up. We want to make sure that people are not put in cells to sober up.
Drug addiction is also a health issue, and despite a spike in heroin overdoses in the CBD and proof the state had spent more than $40 million to purchase a site,
We think there's a strong case to have a second injecting facility. However, it's got to be at the right location.
9 months on, the location for Melbourne's second injecting room is clear as mud, as is the future of Melbourne's long-awaited train line to the airport.
We've offered to give them a car, and they're saying, we want a Lambo. Like, no, sorry.
But for the airport, it's Lambo or bust in the fight for an underground station, a luxury not afforded to Geelong when the Commonwealth cancelled plans for Geelong Fast Rail. Canberra's Robodebt scandal was labelled crude and cruel in July, with criminal charges recommended by a Royal Commission report. IBAC recommended the same for Casey councillors who accepted bribes to push projects for property developer John Woodman, as Daniel Andrews shrugged off the findings of an investigation into contracts his government improperly awarded to a union as educational.
I think it says a lot about the Premier's views on corruption and integrity.
What does it say?
It was not an educational report. It was a damning report.
By the time Victoria's Ombudsman called out a culture of fear and secrecy in a report that flagged public servants were generally scared of upsetting the government, Daniel Andrews was no longer in charge.
That is not a culture that I have operated in, and nor would I tolerate.
Jacinta Allen became our 49th Premier and just the second woman to lead Victoria after a short-lived challenge from Ben Carroll, who settled for deputy.
It's not lost on me that I am only the second woman to lead this state, and that is also comes with some emotion.
Ms Allen was quick to do what Daniel Andrews wouldn't and rewrote rules to keep Frankston serial killer Paul Denyer behind bars for life. Come November, she was leading a parliament that, for the first time, is 50% women and unveiled plans to build the biggest battery in the Southern Hemisphere.
Go! The SEC is well and truly back.
This might be a good project, but we don't know because, like the SRL, we haven't seen the business case.
Victoria has less than half what it needs in the bank to complete stage 1 of the mega rail project, but the Premier signed contracts worth billions to start tunnelling anyway, while police, V-Line staff and firefighters all ramp up campaigns for a pay rise. Victoria's budget will be $177 billion in the red come 2027. How Jacinta Allen balances that will impact both her legacy and that of arguably the most powerful Premier Victoria has ever seen. A legacy built on doing what matters that is far from being set in stone.
I will be forever grateful for the honour of leading this very special place. Thank you all very much.
Mark Santomartino, 9 News.
A new record has been set at Melbourne Airport, with Asiana Airlines becoming the 38th international carrier to take off. The South Korean company will operate direct flights to Seoul every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 p.m. The first departed last night and arrived this morning.
These new direct services will shave off anywhere between 2 to 5 hours, which is significant on a 10-hour sector. The flights are also very conveniently timed.
The seasonal service will run until the 28th of February. Well, 3 lucky punters will have a very happy new year after winning the $90 million Oz Lotto jackpot. To rub salt into the wounds, none are from Victoria. They're all from Sydney. Each will collect a cool $32 million. Well, a solid day for the Australian share market on the first day of trade after the Christmas break. Key blue chips made good gains, with the miners stronger. The All Ordinaries indexes was up. Our dollar was steady against the greenback. All right, Clint Stanaway's next with sport. Hey, Clint.
Hi, Dougal. Thanks so much for that. After the break in sport, Captain Pat, he's run right at the MCG. The Aussies now limbering up for another quick kill. Rinky's big chance as the Demon makes a new friend. And the shove that caused a bit of a stir in the Premier League. Welcome back. A vicious spell from Pat Cummins has put Australia back in the box seat against Pakistan after day 2 at the MCG. With the hosts all out for 318, the skipper stood tall, claiming 3 crucial wickets to have the visitors now 6 for 194 at stumps. Nat Yanides with the highlights.
A glimmer of hope for the visitors on day 2.
Edged and taken. Travis Head couldn't help himself.
A half-century to Marnus Labuschagne, the only highlights for Australia's batting lineup.
Edged and taken at first, Jamal.
Abdullah Shafiq made up for his horrid drop on day 1 to dismiss Labuschagne for 63. Alex Carey soon followed suit.
Edged, it's beautifully taken. An absolute beauty here.
When Marsh finally lucked out on 41, the damage was all but done.
Awkward.
Skipper Pat Cummins took hits to the collarbone and hand. The Aussies all out for 318 before lunch. For the first time this summer, pressure was on the hosts.
Certainly enough in the wicket to create enough chances at the minute.
A handful of those half chances went begging.
Oh, very close.
Before Nathan Lyon nabbed the breakthrough.
Got him. Nathan Lyon strikes.
Pakistan had the better of the second session, heading to tea 1 for 68. But the Aussies were just warming up. Captain Cummins answered the call.
There's a full one! Captain Pat!
A screamer from the skipper broke the 90-run partnership, revitalising Australia's attack.
Got him! And it's an absolute beauty to remove Babar Azam.
Pakistan lost 4 wickets for 27 runs.
Oh, it's a peach. An absolute ripper.
A third scalp for Cummins has the visitors on the ropes, 6 for 194 at stumps, trailing the Aussies by 124 runs. Nat Yanides, 9 News.
Still on the cricket, the Stars believe their luck has finally turned after a much-needed win last night over the previously undefeated Sydney Sixers. Melbourne chased down the 155-run target with 3 balls to spare, breaking a run of 7 losses.
You speak a lot about momentum and you just got to get the train rolling, and T20 cricket's a lot like that, I feel.
The contest wasn't devoid of controversy, though, with Rogers sent on his way after this Moses Enrique's catch.
I actually think it is out. Moses, he controlled it, he took it beautifully.
The Stars back in action tomorrow night against the Hurricanes in Hobart. Rising tennis star Rinky Hijikata is steeling himself for a big summer. The 22-year-old Aussie will begin his campaign in Brisbane, where he's received a wild card alongside Alexander Vukic.
I can fly under the radar and, there's not too many sets of eyes on me, so I feel like that's a great thing. I think it just shows how strong the Aussie men are at the moment.
And out west, Australia's United Cup team enjoyed a low-key day, chilling with some quackers on Rottnest Island. The mixed team event kicks off on Friday night. Well, there's finally a few smiles at Old Trafford after Manchester United's stirring comeback win over Aston Villa. And on a dramatic Boxing Day in the Premier League, a young ball boy also found himself at the centre of a bit of controversy. More on that from Xana Maguire.
In all competitions since 1930, it looked like more of the same for Manchester United against third-placed Aston Villa.
Loglia marks and in Leander Dendonka with the finish for Villa.
But a silky Alejandro Garnacho levelled proceedings with a second-half brace. Then all eyes turned to $19 million he'd produced 0 Premier League goals from 15 appearances. A Boxing Day miracle. Just 2-year-old foes were still showing who's boss.
He's for Jota again. Still alive, here is in!
A routine 2-0 win sending Liverpool to the top of the table. Not everything went as smoothly for Fulham.
Well, there was a push on the ball boy.
A ball boy holding on to the match ball for too long, aggravating goalkeeper Bernd Leno, who was booed by Bournemouth fans. But a 3-0 win gave them something to cheer about.
Lining one up. It's a blistering strike!
In the NBA, Josh Giddey returned from an ankle injury, scoring 10 in the Thunder's 23-point win. While on home soil, top of the table, Melbourne United ramped up their preparation for a New Year's Eve clash against Cairns.
Do a little bit of Cairns defence and what we're going to face, but also really getting our scout right today.
Xana Maguire, 9 News.
Dougal, that's sport. I'll see you tomorrow.
Great stuff, Clint. Thank you. Well, Madeline Spark returns now with more on the weather. And have we seen the last of the showers for this year, Maddie?
Just about, Dougal. And most importantly, New Year's Eve is expected to be dry. I'll have the full forecast as we move from one year to the next after the break. Hello again. Melbourne's holiday weather turned the corner today. It started off with low cloud and sea fog, but we've been under sunny skies for much of our Wednesday. And after a warm night, dipping to just 18 degrees, the city peaked at 24. Northern suburbs have been even warmer. Epping and Yarra Glen both reached 27, Scoresby 26. It's also been quite humid again, but most notably, there was barely a shower about, just a millimetre or two across the Dandenong Ranges. But there were widespread showers east of the metro area. Some of the highest totals to date are 16 millimetres at Warragul and 20 just south of Myrtleford. Daytime temperatures have varied quite significantly. In the southwest, Warrnambool only reached 29. Gippsland recorded maximums of 23 and 24, but it warmed up into the high 20s and the low 30s through the north. There'll be even less shower activity tomorrow, although it will be a little cooler as winds shift from warm southeasterlies to cooler southerlies. Elsewhere around the country tomorrow, Brisbane is in for a hot day, heading for 36 degrees at 6 degrees more than average. A sunny top of 31 on the way for Sydney, 28 in Canberra, a shower or two for Hobart and 22, 29 in Adelaide and 30 in Perth. And a scorcher in Central Australia, a top of 43 in Alice Springs. Back home, it'll be another mild night, especially in the northwest and southeast of the state, with minimums of 17 degrees. And then it will warm up into the high 20s and the low 30s through the far north, 27 at Horsham and Bendigo, the low 20s through the southwest and the mid-20s through Gippsland. There will be a few light showers through the far east, but dry and partly cloudy elsewhere. It'll be another mild night across Melbourne with minimums mostly of 15 and 16 degrees. Then cloudy skies and southerly breezes will also keep it cooler than today. Most suburbs are only forecast to reach 21 or 22, and there is the chance of cloud producing some light isolated drizzle. Geelong's in for a cloudy top of 21, and after an overnight low of 17, the city is also heading for 21. A little brighter on Friday, but cooler, partly cloudy, 20 degrees, back to 19 under cloudy skies on Saturday, 21 on New Year's Eve, but a cool night. It should dip to 13 degrees before a top of 25 on New Year's Day, 26 on Tuesday with a few showers, and then showers again next Wednesday, and 24. Tomorrow will be a bit of a letdown after today's sunny skies. The city should be mostly cloudy after an overnight low of 17. It's only expected to reach 21, and then we've got to wait to the new year for it to really warm up again.
It's waiting for those 30-degree days, Maddie. Thank you. And that is 9 News for this Wednesday. Dimity Clancy is up next with the current affair. Enjoy your evening and good night.